an expert in radio TV programs, where he's a walking Wikipedia on sports. You can test him later on. He will give his own personal view, with a twist of course, on the culture of sports.
Thank you very much. It's been wonderful to join today in Heerenveen, the city of Heerenveen, village of Heerenveen. I've been here with my family, my wife and children. They also liked it. And my daughter, she just beat the Polish. So we're very proud of that. It's a very nice day. And as a professional sports historian, I prepared myself, of course, before coming to a conference like this. I did my research about, I found a new word, I heard it several times, it was here pronounced cultuursporten in Dutch, which, if we pronounce it in English, most close cultural sport. I read it all the time about cultuursporten, and I wanted to find out what is meant by cultuursporten. And I found on the website sentences like, a cultural sport enjoys a rich history and is interwoven in culture and identity, end of quote. And the next one is, cultural sports are part of who we are, end of next quote. And I also found a quiz with questions about cultuursporten. And the first one was this one. And of course I gave an answer. Which cultural sport is not, I repeat, is not a Frisian sport? And then we have some answers, and I gave some. Kaatsen, oh this is not kaatsen anymore, oh they changed. Kaatsen, vierjeppen, ice skating and pole vault. And I gave the answer, of course, pole vault. Not because I agree with it, but I was expected to give that answer. Pole vault is not a traditional Frisian sport. And of course, the answer was right. And there was an explanation, and they say, pole vault is not a Frisian cultural sport because its origin was in Great Britain. And now we have some problems. If you say the origin is not from the region where now it's popular, then we have a problem. And I will explain. I drove all the way from Amsterdam to Heerenveen to tell this. I really like to tell what I'm going to do now. Last week I was in the Frisian city of Franeker. And I had a conversation. I met Pieter Breuker, the most important sports historian of the Frisian sport, kaatsen. He just wrote a book last week, he was published, and he told to me, kaatsen didn't start in Friesland. So, kaatsen is not a Frisian cultural sport. I said it, I've done it. Wait. Imagine, we continue this kind of thinking, and now I will have the example of cycling. The official history about cycling, the first cycling event ever worldwide, was in 1868. Exactly 150 years ago, it was held in the area of Paris. I never believe official history, so I was reading some old magazines and books, and I found out already in the year of 1866, cycling events had been held in Friesland. 2 years before. I didn't find older examples of cycling events, so I drove all the way from Amsterdam to Heerenveen to say, cycling is a typical Frisian cultural sport. And there is also a champion of Friesland, we know his name, Jan Oreel. He was living in the village of Sint Anna Parochie in 1866, the oldest known champion in cycling worldwide. And he was playing in matches in Bergen, Wier, Warga. People in Friesland, they know where it is. People outside from Friesland, they don't know, unless they are a professional sports historian, because they know the existence of places like Bartlehiem and Sint Aar, of Ter Aar. They have to know places like that, Sint Willibord. Anyhow, I have a new question for you to answer. Which of the two next sports is not a Frisian cultural sport? Kaatsen or cycling? Anyone out there? Well, you have a lucky day because there is a sports historian here who can use a text written in 1942, in the middle of the Second World War, in Friesland, by Mindert Hepkema, who is known in Friesland as the founder of the vereniging De Friese Elfsteden, which is responsible of organizing, if possible, of the Friese Elfsteden 11 City Store Tour, the Netherlands' most famous ice skating match. And he wrote in 1942 in a book about the difference between global sports and local sports. And because of him, what he wrote down in 1942, we can answer my question. He wrote about the difference and he said, there are global sports like football and cycling using the same rules in the whole of the world, which means a football player in Friesland and a football player in France, they use the same rules when they play a match. Which means, unfortunately, we have to talk about soccer in Germany, 22 people chase a ball for 90 minutes and at the end the Germans leave very, very disappointed. Football is also very, very global if I compare it to the United Nations. I just checked. The United Nations, 193 countries are a part of the United Nations. IOC, 205, which is more than United Nations. FIFA, 211, which means FIFA is more global than the global organization of the United Nations, just like IOC. That's what we mean with global sports. Local sports, to finish, what Hepkema wrote in 1942, are sports with a rich history interwoven in culture and identity. Those rules can be different in different areas. If someone is playing kaatsen in Friesland, they have other rules than if they will play kaatsen in France. And there is no problem if they have different rules, because they will never meet each other on an international level. So there is no problem. If you have different rules on a global match, global sports, then you certainly have problems. That's why we have referees. Football is a global sport, kaatsen is not, because it can differ all over the world. And there's no problem. So because of Hepkema in 1942, now we can answer the question, kaatsen is a typical Frisian cultural sport. Cycling is not. One thing, it's not only know about history, even if I didn't know about his history, I had a very nice day, and thank you for that.
Thank you.